Hi, I'm Allie Hamilton, and I'm so happy to welcome you to the Come As You Are podcast. Every week, we'll be talking about some aspect of healing, usually around childhood wounds and complicated familial relationships. The topics will always coincide with my personal essay of the week, and this will be a place where we can take a deep dive together. I'm so thrilled you've joined me and delighted for you to always come as you are. Hi there. Hi there. Welcome to our talk. Today, the topic is Embers, and I am coming to you from Santa Monica, about a mile south of the evacuation line for the Palisades fire. So I'm exhausted. I have not slept really very much in the last, I don't even know if it's 3 nights or 4 nights, but it's been really devastating out here. So if you're in different parts of the world listening, then you probably have seen some of the destruction. And I'm not going to talk for very long. But I did write an essay at some point because I was just feeling so heartbroken, and I think the level of shock out here is really high. And we do have wildfire season every year. This is something I think, Los Angelinos is like, this is the time of year where this happens. We have Santa Ana winds, and we're used to that. So much so that it's almost a casual thing. It's like wildfire season, but nothing like this ever. So I've lived out here. I'm from New York City. I was born there. I grew up there. I've been living in Santa Monica for over 20 years. And in all the time I've lived in California, I've never, ever seen anything like this. No one has ever seen anything like this. So we were all aware that obviously the Santa Ana winds this was happening and that they were extreme this year. It's been drought conditions and the temperatures are cooler. So a lot of things kind of coincided to create what has happened here. And still, no one saw this coming. I don't think anyone imagined this was possible. I think the shock is evident because this has never happened before. So, when a thing has never occurred before, it doesn't, your brain does not have the sort of like neural pathway to think that it could happen. And it is just entire communities they're just gone. They were there one day, they're gone. And it's devastating. And people are really hurting. And I have close friends who have lost their homes. They're just gone overnight, and that there are thousands and thousands of people in that situation right now out here, and a very low, thankfully, number of fatalities. There are a lot of, I see people, there's an outpouring of compassion and love and caring and support, which is so helpful. And I want you to know that, like, it does really matter. Even if you say, I don't know what to say, like, I'm so sorry for what you all are going through, even that is incredibly helpful. There are also some really awful comments, and I'm going to address that too, because it's just, this is such, there are comments in between too. There are people who mean really well and are saying things like, things can be replaced, things can be rebuilt, as long as everyone's alive. And, I think I would say to that, like, also, yes, absolutely. That is always the most important thing, is that everybody gets out alive. But, if somebody loses their childhood home, or if someone doesn't have time to grab the only photographs they had of their mother, or, if they just lost the place where their baby took her first steps, or they weren't able to grab the wedding dress they wanted to give to their daughter, or the rug they bought in Mexico on their honeymoon. It's like just to give people the space to grieve. It's, your childhood home. There's a reason that we have a feeling when we walk into a space. They're the echoes of the experiences that we've had with people. A space is not just four walls. It's like, it's the memories that are in the space. It's the same thing as, like, sometimes you'll catch a smell on the wind and it'll bring you back. And so just to, to remember, sometimes I think we're trying to, like, comfort someone, and maybe not, maybe that's not the best thing right now, is just to extend your support and your love, and just let people have space to feel all the things they're feeling right now. Because I do have friends who've just, like, their whole house is gone, and it's just like, it's a hole in the ground with just, steel beams hanging down, and their tub in the ground. It's devastating. And but then there are also people who are taking the opportunity to, like, make this political. And I have to tell you, this is not the moment. Like, please, like, I really can't express, if you could just find it in yourself to scroll on by. This is just not the time for that. If the only thing that I can compare this to is 9/11, and I was there, and I don't say that lightly. I am from New York City. I grew up there. I was there on 9/11. I'll never be over it. So I would not say it lightly. And that's what it's like out here. So, when people start saying, your governor, your woke policies, you're this, it's like, please don't do that right now. I mean, I know nobody that would, like, listen is going to be doing that, but it's just, it is so lacking in decency and compassion and humanity. Like, just to please not do that. The one thing that happened in New York City is people were kind, and it went on for weeks. People were good to each other. And it really breaks my heart to think we've lost that. And, it has been shockingly 24 years since 9/11. And I don't know, the world is not, it's just, we're not moving in the right direction. And from my point of view, it's just, we're losing that that humanity, and that just baseline decency. It's just, if you see, and this whole idea, like, all these things that I'm seeing, we shouldn't be living our lives on social media. This has not helped us at all. It's really created, like, so much division. And the irony is not lost on me that part of what I'm doing right now, I am recording this. I have a podcast that I put out that as I'm doing that, I'm also going live on Facebook, because I have a community here. And that's really the only time that I'm on Facebook anymore. But I don't know, but it's like, I think all of us can agree that the world does not need to be this way. It's like, it would be really nice if we saw people and they needed help, and the impetus was just to help, to extend that help if we could, or at least to extend love, but not to take the opportunity to kick people when they're down. And I think that part of what's happened over the last 20 years in social media and all of it is just that anonymity, and that, it's just that division, and that all of it. It's just, they've, like, lost their minds. And so that has been really unfortunate to see. On the other hand, there have been a lot of people who are stepping up, and I want you to know that too. There's Airbnb partnered with LA 211 and has given a lot of displaced people free places to stay for a week. There are restaurants feeding people for free. There are hotels opening their doors. There are people who are like paying for hotel rooms if they're in a position to do it. There are animal shelters taking in all the displaced pets, and there's a lot of really good things happening out here as well. But I just needed to say that, this is not. We have got to stop at a certain point and realize that it's not like, we don't need to be fighting each other. We need to be banding together and realizing that these weather events that we're having, it's a climate crisis. There's a reason that it's all getting worse. The hurricanes are getting worse. The fires are there's a reason. And it's because we're not taking care of the planet. And we're going to have to get on the same page at some point, and figure that out. It's not a political thing. It's a human thing. And we all need to make changes together and start investing in this planet that we live on together. Or we're going to have more and more events like this. And I don't know, the people who take an opportunity when other people are suffering to attack are the same people who are voting for people who don't want to accept that we're using up all the resources. It's just, we're going to have to get on the same page at some point. But I think what I really wanted to say today is just, when you have the opportunity, right? Like when something happens like this, to be kind, take it if you can. If there's some way that you can help, that's always going to feel better than not helping. And I don't know, I feel like already before this even happened, the world was feeling really fragile. And I think at this moment in time, if there's going to be a safety net for people, it's going to happen because each one of us decides to do something, to be a safety net for someone. Right now, I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't known for the last few days if we're going to have to evacuate or not, because my house is a mile south of the evacuation line for the Palisades fire. So I've been watching this app, and I think it's going to be okay, but I don't know. And because I don't know, I'm not going to, I don't want to foster a dog that's in a shelter right now and then find out I've got to evacuate. So there's a little bit of a pause going on in the world. And you may have experienced, I was talking about 9/11, there's that moment when some just inconceivable world event happens. There's that pause after, that shock after, where you're trying to figure out what to do. There isn't a plan yet. You're just still trying to process what has happened. And that happens on a personal level also, if you lose someone and you can't conceive of that. And, those of us who've been through that, somebody reached out to me who she lost someone during a hurricane. And, those two events have sort of they've become connected in her mind and in her heart. It's the hurricanes happened and she lost someone. And I think for me, the last few years, I've had a lot of loss. I lost my mom at the end of 2021, and I lost my half sister 5 months later. She and I had just become friends, but it had an impact because then I ended up taking over. I moved my dad out here, and then he died in July of 23. It's just been a lot of loss in the last few years. And then my son, my oldest, went to school. He went to college in September, and that was a big adjustment, big change. And then our dog passed away October 29th. So it's just been
a lot of that. And when you are, I've been teaching yoga for, been practicing for like 33 years and teaching for, I don't know, 30, long time, and meditation. And a big part of that practice is working on non-attachment and impermanence, right? It's a big part of the practice is understanding that none of us, we don't last forever. And that's a painful part of being human, right? Like, we all have expiration dates, and everyone we love, same. And that's such a vulnerable thing to integrate and to accept and to, recognize. And I think it's really powerful if you can recognize that to the degree that it inspires you to be living each day all the way, and to be loving your heart out, and to be making sure that the people that you care about know how much you care, and to be pursuing the things that really light you up, whatever your particular gifts are, whatever your particular spark is, to really be going for it, and just putting it out there, and not second guessing yourself, and not telling yourself like you shouldn't, or who am I to do that? Just going for it. I know that I'm saying that it's not easy. Sometimes there's a lot of stuff you have to get through and overcome to do that, but to like really make that a priority, because we don't know how much time we have. Having said all of that, losing people is just like, it's the hardest thing there is. It's the most painful thing there is. Everything else, like whatever else does happen, and this circles back to, what I was saying before about people who are saying like things can be replaced. Things can be replaced, but I will tell you that right now, because I've had the time, I'm not someone who like went to the grocery store and then was evacuated and couldn't go back to my house. That's not me. There are a lot of people in that situation. They left and they couldn't get back. I've had days, so I've had time to think about, if I can only take what I can fit in my car, what are those things going to be? And I'll tell you what, when you think like that, it's really clear. It's photographs. It's photographs from when my kids were tiny. It's artwork from when they were like in elementary school. It's those, the artwork with the pasta glued to it. It's it's the cards they wrote you with like the crayon writing, and the, because both of my parents have passed away over the last few years, it's I've got my grandmother's, I've got a journal that's like handwritten, and photographs of my mother that I discovered after she died, and photographs of my dad like when he was in the army. Like, there's a lot of things that I would not want to lose, so those are the things that are in my car. And there are other things that are like in the living room ready to go. And it really clarifies. It's not, it's not a sweater. It's not your flat screen TV or whatever. Like, you don't care about that. It's the meaningful things, that you would be really sad if you lost. It's that stuff. And they're always attached to people or memories or your history, like where you've come from, story. It's that. It's not the like, it's not the flashy stuff. And to maybe think about that. I don't know, maybe it's a good exercise, even if you're not in that situation of thinking like, what could I fit in my car? It might just be useful. But this whole idea of non-attachment, it's more about that, it's like not allowing yourself to get too attached to a particular outcome, or to like a pair of shoes, or to a sweater that in the end isn't really going to be meaningless. And that's one of the things that I've been writing about. I'm finishing a memoir, and 12 hours after my mom died, grief is funny. Grief is a funny thing. And my stepdad really, he was struggling with like her things being everywhere. And I had to go back to LA, and he was just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to wake up in this room with just her things like all everywhere. And so I was like cleaning out her closet in the bedroom there. And she had like 4 black sweaters that looked almost the same, really expensive, but like variations on each other. And I don't know why, but I suddenly, as I was like trying to figure out, I had boxes and I was figuring out, okay, what things do I want to keep and ship to myself, and what things do I want to donate, and how am I doing this? And I just suddenly like could almost see my mom like in these stores looking at another black sweater and kind of like convincing herself that it was different enough from the 1 she already had at home, the 2 she already had at home, the 3 she already, and it just made me sad, because it's like you don't take any of that stuff with you. You don't take the 4 expensive black sweaters with you. They don't go in your car. You might not even take one of them with you. And I think, I don't know, I think we all just need to get back to the basic stuff of just, what would I put in my car, and who do I want to be in this world that does feel like it's on fire, And if I see that people are in shock or they're hurting, who do I want to be? How do I want to be? Even if I'm online and they can't see me and they don't know me, who do I want to be? Because the rest of it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Like, ultimately, it's your life. You're living with yourself. And at the end of the day, when you're brushing your teeth and you're kind of like meeting your own eyes in the mirror, you're the one who's living with whatever you've done all day and however you've been all day. And I don't know, but I can't imagine that it would feel good to get to the end of the day knowing that you lashed out at people all day, and that's how you spent your time, and like that's what you did with your energy. Like, that can't be a good feeling. And I know that when people are doing that, when they're angry like that, it's just, there's pain underneath it. I understand that. I've been doing this work long enough. I know if somebody is taking an opportunity when people are hurting to tell them it's their own fault, or it's their politics, it's their woke philosophy, it's their, it's like, I know that person's in pain. I think that I'm just at the point now of like, if you're in pain, like, please seek some help. Like, please seek some help, because, or if you feel, even if you're not attacking people, if you feel like you have gifts that you want to share and you're struggling because you doubt yourself, or you're telling yourself like you shouldn't or you can't, like, try to get some support. I think what I'm feeling is like this, such a strong desire to see the world, like, not go up in flames and not become this, this hellscape. I mean, I'm sure that even if you aren't here, you're seeing videos. And I would really recommend, like, if you're going to look at videos, try to look at actual people's videos and not the news, because I just don't even know anymore. I feel like there's so much just, there's just so much misinformation out there, and it feels like there's so much clickbait, and, there's things that are posted that are really preying on people's worst moments, but if somebody's posting something personally, then they're choosing to post it. Their pain isn't being used to like draw advertisers or whatever. So I don't know if there's a way that you can do that, but I think what we're seeing is what's going to happen if we can't learn to reach out to each other and be softer and be kinder and stop with the like the nastiness and the vitriol and the rage baiting and the doom scrolling and the like. It's just, we're going to tear each other apart. It's just not going to go well. It's going to look like what the Palisades looks like right now. It's just going to be smoke and embers and people grieving. And I think what we need is like that energy of the people helping. That's what we need right now across the globe. We need that energy of the people who are trying to figure out how to help. I have been posting, in my, like, on all the different platforms that I can, I've been posting different links to how there are always helpers. It's that whole, Mr. Rogers. I mean, we need Fred Rogers all over the place right now. I wish we could just like replicate him and put him everywhere. But he always was how his mother, when he was a little boy and he was scared, his mother would always tell him to look for the helpers. And there are so many of them. And that is like, look for the helpers and also try to be a helper, try to be a helper. Like, just see, what can I do? It doesn't have to be like with this particular tragedy that's unfolding here right now. And it is tragic. And, not everyone, by the way, in Los Angeles is a celebrity or a millionaire. There are a lot of people here who are hurting and are just trying to feed their families and working hard. And I mean, one of my, kids, a local high school burned to the ground, and like kids that my kids are really close to, like their high school just burned to the ground, and like, I don't know if you have any high school kids in your lives, but like, what that is when you're in whatever, you're in ninth grade, 10th grade, you're a junior, you're a senior, you're going to graduate, and now your high school is just, it's gone. And what that looks like, suddenly, and I'm sure that the kids from that high school are going to be spread out across the other high schools in the area, but it's like the impact of this thing, people whose jobs, their life's work, that everything's just gone up in flames. And I don't know, just, wherever it is that you feel like you can help, anywhere, there are people on your block in your community somewhere who need help, and just to see what you can do. Even before this happened, like, I was really trying to think about, it's no secret to anyone who reads my stuff or listens to the podcast, the election did not go the way that I hope that it would. And, we don't have to like, look, we don't all agree on a lot of things. But when that happened, it's like I had spent so much time writing and talking and like posting links and really trying to support what I was, why I felt the way that I felt, with facts and, just trying to have like conversation that was based in like, here's some things that I can support, why I'm feeling this way. Here are some facts and here are some things to look at so we can talk about it. And everyone that I know was doing that, was using every platform they had to try to like have these conversations. And when that didn't work, right, I thought, well, what can I do here? And I decided, like, let me think smaller. And that is when I started thinking about my block. And I do have a neighbor who is elderly and alone. And I've mentioned this a couple times lately because I just feel like we all have that neighbor. We all have somebody in our community who needs help. And that's something that you can do today. You can drive a neighbor to the grocery store or to the doctor, or you can go to the grocery store for them, or, I mean, he didn't have a phone, like he has a phone now. Can you imagine being in this situation, in this kind of emergency situation? There's no phone. Like, you can't. So that's what I mean, just to see what you can do in your own community for just one person and become the safety net. If you think that there should be a safety net in society, then just become one strand of that for somebody, that's a lot. That's huge. And, as for what's happening out here, just like New York recovered, we're going to recover out here. I can't really, somebody was talking about like, what does rebuilding even look like? I can't even kind of go there because the fires aren't under control yet. So it's hard to even think about rebuilding anything until the first part is solved. But if you are wondering what it's like out here, that's the closest I can kind of get to, is that feeling. And if you weren't in New York for 9/11 and the aftermath, I mean, it's like I didn't realize that's what was coming up for me until kind of later in the day. I went out to my den and I opened up the curtains. This was like, I've lost track of the days, but it was sort of like after the first night when the evacuations had happened and things were looking really, really bad. I didn't sleep. And I got up in the morning, after failing to sleep, and I opened the curtains and the sky was really bright. It was like the wrong color, which is also how it was in New York City. And there was like a military Osprey overhead, and it was so low to my house that the windows were shaking and the whole house was shaking, even underneath my feet. And I realized like, oh, that is what this is reminding me of. And that it had been sort of like hovering around, like at the edges of my consciousness, because it was so awful in New York City that day. And, I spent about 5 hours. We thought my stepdad was in the building. It turned out he had gotten off the subway a stop early because it was a beautiful day. He decided to walk the last few blocks to work, which he had never done before. So many stories like that, and so many stories not like that, sadly. But it was a beautiful day. And then there were like military jets, and it was like a war zone, in the city. And there was just a similar, the level of loss is similar here, and the level of shock and grief. And the last thing I'll share with you is like when I think I was about 12. I don't know if any of you will remember. In the 80s, there were these moon boots everybody was getting, and it was like a chin-up bar they were selling. And there were these metal boots that almost looked like ski boots, and they had hooks on them. And so people would put the boots on their feet, and then they would invert. They would, put the hooks over the chin-up bar, and they would hang upside down. Now, of course, as a yoga teacher, I would tell you, like, you know what? Why don't you just run your legs up the wall, or like go to yoga and learn how to do a headstand? Okay. Anyway, so my stepdad got these moon boots and the chin-up bar, and like one day I heard like a terrible crash, and I went out. I heard him yell, and just like it sounded bad. And I came running out, and he was on the ground. He was on the floor of the hallway, and his shin bone was sticking up like at an angle. I couldn't understand what I was seeing. And it was like broken in half and jagged and sticking straight up. He had broken his tibia, his shin bone, in a way that I can still see it in my mind. And I stood there and I could not make it make sense, even though I was standing there staring at it. his foot, everything was like at the wrong angle. It just didn't make sense. That's what it's like out here. It's like you're looking at things, you're staring right at them. My friend sent me a video, it's a close friend of mine, and he sent me a video of what was his house, a place where I have been many times. And it's like I've watched the video, I've lost track of how many times I've watched it because I can't make it make sense. You're watching, and the video is the entire block. And it's just, you can't, it doesn't compute, like it doesn't make sense. And that's how it is right now. And if you see videos of people driving along the PCH, it's like, it doesn't, it's really hard for your mind to accept. And it is a similar feeling when you lose someone, that you love. It's it doesn't make sense. And the morning after, my mom died, and I went through her things, and I had to leave. I had to go back to LA. I had a panic attack, and I'd never had one before. And I'd helped people, I obviously knew what they were, but I had never had one myself. And that's what this feels like. It feels like an extended panic attack because you're just kind of like, it doesn't make sense. You're just trying to understand what is happening, and you cannot make sense of it. And that feeling of not being able to make sense of a thing that you are staring at, it's panic inducing. And so I think, as worried as I am for people who have lost their homes, and, in many cases they've lost their businesses or the tools they use for their livelihood, I'm almost worried more for people who cannot find compassion for people who are in that state. I'm almost more worried for those people. I think that's almost a more terrifying place to be, because the people who've lost everything, there are people who are showing up for them. Just like there are people who are showing up for me. I've had so many friends and family and just people reaching out and, sending texts and calling and messaging, this community there is no better community. I'm so lucky and I'm so grateful. I literally do not ever take it for granted, not for a minute of the day ever. And so, and I'm lucky. I have not lost my house. I have a packed car. I have a plan. I have somewhere to go if I need to. I'm really lucky. I'm not one of the people here who's not lucky. But my heart is broken for so many of my friends. And there are a lot of ways to help. If you are looking for ways to support, I'll put links under the talk here as well, under the podcast. I'll leave some links too if you want to. And I'm linking on all the different, like I said, all the different platforms if you want to help, or if you're looking for ways to support. And if I find out that, if I feel pretty confident that I'm not going to have to evacuate, then I'm not ready to get a new dog, but I'm definitely ready to foster. So you can look forward to that. Anyway, I thank you for your care and your concern and, your kind hearts. I do want people to know, kindness is everything. It really is, being a kind and caring person in this world, I think it's like, it's the gold. It's the stuff. It's what you pack your car with. It's everything. So, if you're wondering, like, I don't know, if you have enough, if you are enough, if you're doing your life right, like, if you're kind, yeah, you're doing it. That's it. And it really matters. It's kind of like the only thing that really matters. You're not taking anything with you. You're not taking anything with you. It's like it's what you do while you're here. So I hope you can maybe make that the thing. Like, how much can I be any kinder than I am already? What else can I do? That's if you're gonna have a goal, maybe make that the goal. And I thank you so much for joining me. And I'm sending you love, and I hope that you're safe. I hope you have shelter and water and somewhere safe to sleep, and people who love you and people who check on you, and that you feel loved. And I'm sending you love until next time.